Welcome back, folks. Sport Federation TV. We keep talking about sport in the Western Cape across the 6 districts. And, of course, coming up on the show tonight, a number of interesting interviews. We'll be catching up with Marlies Verwey. She's the athletes representative for ringball. We're also going to be speaking to Corina de Beer, the president of Western Cape Shooting. And we'll be showing you some of the highlights from some of our previous shows. But on the show with me now and joining me is the from Western Cape Climbing, Chris Naude. Of course, Western Cape Climbing recently had their provincial championships here in Cape Town. Chris, welcome back.
Hi JP, thank you, and it's great to be back on Sport TV.
Yeah, no, it's our pleasure to have you, and it's really good to know that you guys have remained active. And so it's been a few weeks. We've been trying to find the time to catch up with you. We know that you guys have been quite busy, but yeah, in a nutshell, a few weeks ago you managed to have the provincial championships here in Cape Town.
Yeah, JP, it's been great actually. I mean, we in spite of all the hassles we've had with COVID and all the rest of it, we managed to get our provincial championship going. We had to get quite creative about how we ran the competition. We had a bigger competition than we've ever had before because we split it up into 3 sections and sort of chased people out of the gym and back in again and so on. So it was quite an interesting exercise, but it was really quite exciting, and everybody responded really well to it. And our membership has, even since then, our membership has increased again. So it's been a great time for climbing, really.
When I look at lately, if I look at social media, for example, there seems to be a lot of pop-ups of somebody that is doing some sort of climbing, some sort of demonstration of bouldering or speed climbing. These are the pop-ups that I never saw before, but for some other reason, it's just all over our screens at the moment. Do you think that's got something to do with the recent Olympics?
I think it must have something to do with that as well. There are 2 things I think that have driven this. The Olympics, certainly, it's the first year that climbing has been entered into the Olympic Games, which of course legitimizes it as a sport. It sort of makes it, people definitely look at you differently. And the second thing is that with a lot of the team sports being quite difficult to cope with in the COVID period, climbing is a great one. A lot of it's outdoors, and even indoors we can separate it out so that people can maintain social distancing and all the rest of it while continuing to train.
So when you guys are not training at the likes of a City Rock, are the athletes going out to the mountains? Are they finding a farm or a set of boulders somewhere?
Always. I think that's been a huge part of the activity at the moment. So a lot of people who haven't climbed outdoors before, who've only climbed in the gym, which is a legitimate thing. A lot of people only climb ever indoors, but this year particularly we've seen a huge exodus to the Cederberg and Rocklands, where there's a lot of outdoor climbing. It keeps you pretty isolated, and you can climb on your own if you want to, but like generally speaking with a small group of people.
Let's talk a little bit more about the Western Cape Championships that you held now recently. It was here at City Rock. Of course, we know that you had successful Africa, the Continental Championships at the same venue here in December last year. The Western Cape Champs now, are you seeing some athletes coming through the ranks, new athletes, current champions? I mean, we know that some of your guys in the Western Cape are, of course, looking forward to the Olympics. The next, although it's maybe early to speak about it, but I mean, you've got some serious athletes that are thinking about it, I suppose.
Absolutely, and we're a little bit miffed that we didn't get our athlete into the Olympics, but we're making some plans for that, and we've actually just initiated a high performance group, which we will hopefully train. We have 2024 in our sights now, and the next 2 athletes the male and female athlete that Africa sends to the Olympics will hopefully be from the Western Cape.
Well, we have no doubt. It looks like you guys have got the momentum. Let's say the the bit in the teeth now. So the event itself, you say, was quite busy. A lot of people, a lot of entries. Then, are you seeing some newcomers coming into the structure?
We did have a whole lot of newcomers. Of course, they haven't got the experience of the more experienced climbers, so they weren't, generally speaking, on the podium. A couple of new lights did come out, and we've started a new strategy of inviting to our provincial championships. We invite people from the other provinces to come and compete here as well.
Yeah.
We did that specifically because of the COVID thing. Competitions are quite hard to organize now, and some of them haven't managed to, some of the other provinces haven't managed to have their own competitions. So we've invited everyone to our competitions, and it worked out really well. They went away with a hugely positive feedback for us, and we'll keep that up in going into the future as well. So just inviting them to all of our competitions.
Chris, in the last interview we spoke about route setting. You mentioned that the route setters themselves at the events are quite skilled. At this Western Cape Champs, did you have to do specific route setting also, or are the walls, was the wall the same?
No. In all our competitions, we make sure that there are completely new routes that no one's climbed before. That's kind of the way these competitions work. So that we would set up 20 new routes on the wall, or whatever the number is, depending on the competition. But we'd set up completely new routes. For this one, we had our local route setters doing it, but we've also reached out to one of the top world route setters to come to the Western Cape to assist with some workshops and what have you for route setting.
So how does that work?
We believe that the route setting is key to really good climbing.
So how does that work from a practical aspect? I mean, do the athletes find out about the route on the day? Do they have any opportunity to practice that route before they actually do their climb?
In our competitions, most of the climbs are on site, which means that you basically look at the climb for you get a 5-minute viewing period where you can sit and look at it and plan your route. You don't get to touch anything, you don't get to try it out, none of that. You just plan it, and then when the competition starts, that's when you've got your 5 minutes to get up.
So so your climbing begins in your head before you start climbing.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the key things in the whole thing, is the planning of your route and being able to, what we call reading the route. So you've got to figure out beforehand, by just looking at it, which hand you're going to move first, which foot you're going to put on what hold, and so on.
Well, that was going to be my next question, is do the top athletes, do they do probably a lot of visualization training in terms of how do you memorize things? How do you capture it?
Absolutely. It's one of the things that people find quite amusing about watching climbers talk. They can literally, you watch them, experienced climbers, and they're sort of doing this and this, and they climb with a heel hook here, and you throw up to the right and so on, and they know out of thousands of boulders which one you're talking about. Just by describing the route.
So the Western Cape Championships then, of course, very successful. What's next for those athletes now that competed at the championships?
So we have, coming up in about a month's time, we've got a small championship for the smaller kids. So in the sort of under 9 to under 13. And then there's another Africa Championship, which will be held in Johannesburg. And later in March, we've got a national championship back in Cape Town again. Chris,
it's been great chatting with you again. We've got some fantastic pictures here that we're looking at. Obviously, you guys are just going from strength to strength. It's always good to be speaking to a federation that has been able to increase their numbers during such difficult times like COVID. So what a pleasure. Western Cape Climbing, you guys are a bunch of legends, and we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, thanks very much, JP. It's been great chatting again.
There we go, folks. Chris Naude, Western Cape Climbing, and as he said, it's just going from strength to strength. And you want to find out a little bit more about joining the climbing structures, visit their website, www.westerncapeclimbing.co.za. Lots of positives there from a social perspective, from a competitive perspective, and simply just enjoying the outdoors as well and getting involved in the sport. Folks, we'll take an ad break. When we come back from the break, we carry on taking a look at sport in the province. Back in a sec.